Have you ever really tried at something? I'm not talking about like giving a new sport a go for a summer or when you baked a pie or a cake a few times. No, no, no. I'm talking about a lifelong pursuit, a drive, a passion. Sometimes the world just doesn't want you to hear anything you have to say. And other times when you're absolutely certain that what you're doing will work, it blows up in your face. There was a show in 2001, a cartoon that really spoke to people. It was praised at its premiere and even had more episodes ordered afterwards. It's still heavily remembered to this day, and you'll never be able to watch it. Cell Phones is the pilot episode for a Kitty Bobo show, and in it, we follow a group of 4 friends. Our main character, Kitty Bobo, as well as Paul Dog, Maggie, and Monkey Carl. Hanging out together at the restaurant, Kitty has gotten a brand new cell phone and is super excited to share all of its new features, but seems to feel down that he isn't getting any important calls. To Kitty's friends, all of this is more of an annoyance, and they're not really interested in hearing it. But as they all leave the diner, Kitty and Maggie decide to go to the movies that day. Kitty, however, can't help but talk on the phone during the film, and accidentally ends up causing a scene. The rest of the moviegoers are super annoyed and eventually just toss him out, causing their time together to get a little bit soured. Not to be deterred, Kitty goes with Paul later that night and attempts to prove how cool he is to Graffiti, a certain someone that they have had a rough past with. Despite Kitty's plan to use a payphone to fake a call from a girlfriend, Graffiti sees right through it and tells Kitty that no matter what happens, he'll never be cool. Kitty and Paul decide that after a roasting like that, it's probably time to call it a night. The following morning, we see Kitty irresponsibly using his phone while riding a bike, and while messaging Monkey Carl bragging about how cool he is for doing both at the same time, he crashes his bike, and the phone breaks. Understandably distraught, he enters the diner with his friends, only to find out that everyone but him has a cell phone. The episode was shown during Cartoon Network's Cartoon Fridays block during a special showing called The Big Pick, in which viewers could vote in a competition for their favorite new pilot out of 10. Now, I'd say that personally, it seemed like there was a lot of potential here with a unique lineless art style, utilization of urban music that gave it a very modern and laid-back feel for the time, especially in comparison to other cartoons for kids, and an interesting look into a lifestyle that was based on the experiences on the creators' own lives as Korean-American children living in a city. This is unique. Its characters are extremely charming, and I would have loved it to be made into its own show. And it turns out that I'm not the only person who thought so. Out of 250,000 votes from both people who watched it live as well as people who voted online, Kitty Bobo got second place in the competition with 28,770 votes, only being beaten by Codename Kids Next Door, which did eventually go on to be one of the longer running shows on the channel at 6 seasons. The people who got to see Kitty Bobo expressed their support and liking of the show through the internet and in physical publications. Sure, it was only second place, but there was a precedent in place for that sort of thing being made into shows, considering that Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, made the previous year, was also a second place winner and got turned into a TV show. Unfortunately, the show always seemed to be unable to push forward. Despite creators Kevin Callagher and Megan Dunn's best efforts, they were always hitting roadblocks. Cartoon Network initially did order one more episode, and it was set for a 2002 release. It got as far as the storyboard phase before being ultimately scrapped, and it sat for years unknown before being shown to the internet years later. Callagher later pitched the show to Disney in 2005 with a revised cast, making them younger, but was ultimately rejected by the company. The show would sit for years before small rumblings in 2010 when Dunn pitched a new unrelated show called Chloe of the Stars to Frederator. Frederator liked the idea and even wished to promote it on their Kickstarter. For fans of Kitty Bobo, one of the rewards was a storyboard for the second episode of the show that was never produced. It seems, however, But it was not meant to be, as the Kickstarter failed to meet its goal and the entire project went under. So we only have very small snippets of that storyboard left. That was the last time we ever heard of the show. Despite loyal fans and many attempts to bring it all back, it's sometimes the way that a show goes, unfortunately. A great idea can ring well with audiences and provide a fresh, unique experience, but if a studio sees it as a risk, or maybe not as big of a profit as it could be, it'll just be stopped forever. The desire to create is a super strong force, and many people continue and work through failure to make something that's really worth seeing. The art and the business side of anything can clash, and when you're a creator, it can just feel like the process is completely at odds with you. Kitty Bobo may have been a show that was unfortunately taken before it had its chance, but it's also a cartoon that proves that good ideas last, even if their original intent is gone. The fans are persistent, and even today, it's still an enjoyable watch, despite the general zeitgeist around the phone being, like, charmingly outdated at this point. But who knows, maybe someday someone else will pick this up and we'll get to see a show that's 21 years in the making.